Welcome back, everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. Today we're going to discuss a somewhat misunderstood topic, and that is the topic of what is an offshore bank account. Now, this might sound pretty straightforward, but I promise you it is a little less straightforward than you think. And just as a bonus at the end, I'm going to share with you a couple of the top banks for offshore banking, so stick around. Before we jump into that, if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. It really helps us out. Click the notification bell. We have lots of videos here. We're going to let you know about great content. And if you would like help with international tax planning, asset protection, offshore banking, offshore company formation, residencies, citizenships, please click the link below, clarity.fm/Michael Rosmer to book a call with me, or visit our websites, offshorecitizen.net, offshorecapitalist.com. All right, so I almost feel weird introducing this topic because of the fact that it's like, well, isn't it obvious what an offshore bank account is? But actually, for most people, I find that it's a little bit deceptive. And what I mean by this is, let's say that you are living in the US or Canada or Australia, okay, for three simple examples, but it could be anywhere in the world. What is an offshore bank account to you? Would that be a bank account in Cayman Islands? I think most people would agree that a bank account in Cayman Islands is, an offshore bank account, right? Would it be a bank account in Nevis? Probably. What about a bank account in UK? Would that be an offshore bank account? Switzerland, is that an offshore bank account? I think most people would consider Switzerland to be an offshore bank account, but they probably wouldn't consider UK to be an offshore bank account, which is really interesting. Now, in reality, what an offshore bank account really is to you actually is based on where you are, okay? So there's kind of this idea of tax havens. And it's a very misunderstood concept. Tax havens today don't really exist in nearly the same way as they did historically. Okay, so first of all, let's recognize that where you bank in almost all cases did not affect how much tax you pay. So some people believe that, hey, rich people, they go and they bank in Singapore and they don't pay any tax. It does not work that way. Okay, it used to be that people would illegally hide money in Switzerland and not pay tax. Now, it wasn't that they weren't subject to tax. It wasn't like banking in Switzerland somehow made it so that their taxes went away. What it meant was that there was this secrecy, this privacy piece. But the reality today is that's pretty much gone away. Okay, so the way that it works is starting in 2015, the U.S. Started requiring what's called FATCA reporting, Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, where every bank in the world that mattered started reporting back to the U.S. Okay, on all of their U.S. clients, telling basically what their balances were and that they were there, et cetera, which is a really big deal because the U.S. has pretty onerous foreign account reporting called FBAR, Foreign Bank Account Reporting, that if you don't comply with it, you get taxed 50% of the undeclared amount. So over 4 years, you could end up having double the tax bill that you had money in there, okay? So pretty crazy. Following that, a few years later, the world came out with something called the Common Reporting Standard. Now, I created a video on this. You can check it out. What is CRS, I think it is, or what is the Common Reporting Standard, something like that. And this is basically the global version of FATCA, where most countries in the world, there are some exceptions, mostly in kind of like Africa for one, not surprisingly, and then certain parts of Eastern Europe, places like Bosnia, places like Montenegro, places like Georgia, etc., aren't part of CRS yet, but probably will be. And in this scenario, all these countries report back to your foreign country, okay? So generally the idea of bank secrecy based on where you bank has more or less gone away, just like the taxation of it mostly didn't exist to begin with. There are like a couple of very rare exceptions, but very rare, okay? So what offshore banking is when you bank outside of your country. Now, why would you want to do that? Is that, to save on tax, do something like this? No, generally not. Usually there's a few reasons you want to bank outside your country. Number one is to diversify, to take away some risk. Now, the reality is that most of the safest banks in the world probably are not in the country that you live in, okay? So if you can bank somewhere else, it may be safer, okay? That's number one. Number two is you may get access to better interest rates, you may get access to better services, you may get access to other currencies, etc. So I'll give an example. I'm from Canada, and in Canada, you basically can't do any banking outside of US dollars and Canadian dollars. It's virtually impossible to get bank accounts in any other currency. Whereas in Europe or Asia, et cetera, multi-currency accounts, which might include dozens of currencies, are super common. They're the norm, okay? So that's a big deal. You may have better fees, so you may save on your transaction costs, which also makes things easier. You may have lower transaction costs in terms of sending wires, et cetera. I have bank accounts in the U.S. where it's like I'm paying $45 a wire. It's crazy compared to, you know, some of my European bank accounts. You know, it's like a couple bucks, right? Very little. So that's something to consider. What else is there? The other thing is, you know, maybe you need to somehow access that payment infrastructure, and that's helpful. Sometimes I have a video on what is SEPA. Bank transfers are super cheap within the SEPA region. So if you're doing business there, you're doing investing there, that could be very helpful, right? So all of these things are key reasons why you might want to be there. Now, it also offers a degree of asset protection, and actually it does offer a degree of privacy, but not from the governments, okay? Who it offers privacy from is, say you're being litigated against, right? Say somebody goes to sue you. Well, you know, if it's in your home country, they have potentially access to those assets under the court, whereas if your assets are abroad, then it's not under the court's jurisdiction, it's probably not disclosed, etc., and so it can provide you a bunch of protection that way. Now, the last reason that it may be useful is because it allows you to invest in things that you can't invest in otherwise. So let's use a specific example here. There's a lot of really inexpensive Russian stocks right now. So for instance, Gazprom, the largest gas company in Russia, is trading at like a 1.2 PE, and it's something like a 40-some billion dollar company, that sort of thing. Like, can you imagine this? On a 40-some billion dollar company, the profits of the company are paying for the whole value almost every year. This is insane, just ridiculous, you know? But if you're, say, an American, you're investing through an American brokerage account, you can't do that. You don't have access to it. So if you are in certain countries and you have access to brokerage accounts there, you can have access to these other investments. So it opens up a world of possibilities. So you get safety potentially, you get privacy potentially, you get better access to investments, you get better service, you get lower fees. These are the reasons why people do offshore banking today. It's quite different from what it was in the past. And so, you know, it might be right for you. I think it's a really smart thing to diversify outside of your country so that you at least have some flexibility. If you have some extra money, it's worth it to have, you know, some in your country, some abroad. Obviously, you need some locally in order to do transactions. That's cool. You can, you know, potentially gain a lot from choosing the right place, though. So anyway, if that's helpful, please let me know. Click the thumbs up. If you would like help with international, I actually don't really there's so much that we can help you with here. But you know, we can kind of point you in the right direction. So if you'd like to get some help with this, please click the link below, clarity.fm/Michael Rosmer, book a call with me, or check out our websites, offshorecitizen.net, offshorecapitalist.com. And you know, all of this, as well as international tax planning, like I said, asset protection, forming companies, residencies, citizenships, etc. Happy to help you out, and I'm going to see you guys on the next video.